Seeing Su Lingya being overwhelmed by the deceitful heiress of the Starry Skies group, Moon, my boy Su Ping waltzed into their match, trashed the chick, gave Skelly to his sister on a temporary contract, refused to elaborate, and left. Cool. After which Skelly tore the Starry Skies, astral pets a new one, and stabbed the crap out of Moon. Yeah, stuff's been escalating fast. As Moon is left with her eyes wide in shock, Su Ping has a short internal monologue. He thinks about how in this world, there are two different kinds of predators. Those who have bright and vibrant appearances to warn off their prey, and those who completely hide their presence, preferring stealth. As Zhao Wuji and Yi rush down, Su Ping states that this little skeleton before them is neither of those. No, Skelly is more akin to pure darkness, a creature of the abyss, so disharmonious that his existence is comparable to nothingness. Down on the arena stage, Skelly slashes Moon across the torso, releasing her transformation and dropping her to the ground. Meanwhile, Su Lingya focuses on healing Snowball and marvels at how her opponent, someone who even drove Lunar Dragon into a corner, has been so thoroughly beaten. Up in the stands, the family heads that have been watching are stunned by what's just happened. The defeat of the Starry Skies pets has been so one-sided that it's like watching sheep walking to their slaughter. While the Tan family head wonders just how Su Ping's power it is, the older folks are scared crapless. Though that's not saying much at their age. Probably use adult diapers anyways. Old Man Joe is the only one who seems calm. Something which is only thanks to him already knowing about Su Ping's power and having allied with him. Back on the stage, Skelly stands in place, holding up Moon's collapsed body by the hair. Zhao Wuji and Yi fly onto the stage in a cold sweat, screaming that they concede and begging Skelly to show mercy. They plead with him to talk this out, declaring that they admit defeat. Up in his ox, they announce their comments on how 5 higher grade 9 pets have been dispatched by Skelly within moments of each other. He's quite literally built different. As Moon's protectors stand before Skelly, Su Ping slowly levitates down to the stage behind them, asking where all that arrogance of theirs went. Takyo Sheep Boy, with a golden glow surrounding him, he looks down on them with half-lidded eyes and asks if they give up on being the champion now. Up in the stands, the clan heads are all gobsmacked that he's still talking about the championship. After all, in their eyes, this situation eclipses the importance of the tournament. If Moon dies, the Starry Skies will raise them all to the ground. On the stage, Zhao and Yi don't even need to think for a moment before yelling out that they give up and don't want to be champions anymore. They even claim that they won't hold Su Ping accountable for anything that's happened today if he spares their lady. Jesus, the entitlement on these douchebags. Just then, Moon's wound radiates a sickly purple aura that oozes darkness. They recognize it as rotting corpse poison and turn to Su Ping, who stares with a smirk. What they just said is the same as claiming that he's in the wrong here, and they're being gracious enough to forgive him. Dropping the act, Zhao and Yi demand that he cure the poison. They even threaten to bury the whole city along with Su Ping if he doesn't. Y'all, and what army? Skelly just body your best pets without breaking a sweat. Hearing their constant yapping, Su Ping is angered and clenches his fist with golden energy. He speaks of how they dare ask for mercy when granting none to their victims. If he lets them, they'll only bring more suffering. With that, he gives Skelly the signal to slash off Zhao's left arm, leaving him screaming in rage. When Skelly attacks Yi though, a golden spear appears and blocks his blade. Up in the sky above the arena, an army of cloaked individuals has arrived. Their leader looks at Su Ping and asks if he's the killing decree's target. Yi shouts that he is, bringing Zhao's bravado back in a second. For his part, Su Ping is just confused, not knowing what a killing decree is or who these people are. Luckily, the clan heads upstairs are always useful for some exposition. They reveal that a decree is issued when a city is threatened by a beast king. The Starry Skies then deploy 20 higher grade 9 experts and 10 pinnacle grade 9 experts to defeat the beast king. This military might is the greatest factor in the Starry Skies' dominance. Their leader, the Soldier King Jackson, removes his hood and calls out for all civilians to evacuate the area. Instead, the people simply break down in panic and fear. As it turns out, the killing decree always leaves the city of interest as little more than a crater. Everyone here will die no matter how far they run. Lingya panics when she remembers her mom, but Su Ping tells her not to worry. Right now, she's in the safest place in the world. That aside, if these people want to kill a true king, they're far from qualified to do it. Zhao Wuji is infuriated at his lack of fear and makes a declaration. All the major families of Longjiang are to assist in defeating Su Ping. Any who refuse will be branded traitors and executed. The leader of the Tang family, Ryo Tang's father, instantly jumps on the opportunity since he just needed an excuse to go after his daughter's kidnapper. With a single sentence, his family's aerial army, consisting of 1,000 pinnacle grade 9 Thunderbirds, comes out of hiding to join in. Jabbing his finger in Suping's direction, the clan head orders them to subjugate the boy. At the command of the Tang family head, the aerial army lets loose a barrage of golden arrows at Suping. The golden rain comes down on the arena with the fury of 1,000 Olympian spears, shredding the stadium's roof like wet paper. Inside, the civilians panic and scream for help as the debris falls around them. Leaping into action, the heir of the Qin family quickly deploys his pet, the guardian of nature, and saves some people. Among them is Dong Mingsong. The boy quickly tells them to get out of the place before moving towards the main conflict. Over with the big players, the Tang family head yells at Suping in anger and demands that he surrender. Below him, Zhao Wuji and Yi stare at the remaining clan heads and ask what they'll do. They must pick a side now or be deemed traitors to the starry skies regardless. The choice is theirs. Yeesh, talk about a rock and a hard place. They're mostly douches though, so whatever. Without even thinking for a single second, the Zhou family head steps away from the others and states that he's on Suping's side to the end. Shocked and worried about their families, the remaining 4 clan heads wonder what to do. The Starry Skies and Suping are both immensely powerful. If they pick the losing side here, their families will be doomed. Despite the insane power Suping has shown though, the reputation of the Starry Skies prevents them from having any real faith in him. Not to mention they're on pretty bad terms with him anyways, so it's not like they can expect much from him in terms of benefits. With that, the 4 stand together, ready to join the Starry Skies. However, just then, one of them is stopped by a call from down below. The Qin family heir calls up to Qin Du Huang, his father. Du Huang telepathically tells his son, Sky, to get away from this place. Instead, Sky stands his ground and asks his father to reconsider his allegiance. When Du Huang decides to hear him out, Sky lays all the facts out on the table. The Starry Skies don't give a damn about them, and their so-called protection fees are only rising with each passing year. At this rate, they'll be extinct before long no matter what. Du Huang can see where his son's coming from, but insists that the Starry Skies are not a force that can be trifled with. Regardless, Sky is set in his decision and tells his father that Suping is not to be underestimated. He can do this. With his piece said, Sky asks Du Huang to believe in his son's judgment. Suping can overthrow the Starry Skies. Upon hearing this, something sparks within Du Huang. A few steps ahead, the other 3 clan heads suddenly realize Du Huang isn't walking with them. Down below on the stage, Zhao Wuji stares angrily at the man. He says that he can overlook a child's babbling, but the clan head must take responsibility. Regardless, Du Huang steps over to Suping alongside his son. Finally, a dude who doesn't need to get his tushy kicked to make the right choice. Over from his spot, the Tang family head comments that he's only gotten more hot-headed with age. Without a second thought, he orders his army to shoot at them all. Standing tall, Du Huang admits that he may have gotten old and lost his passion. But regardless of all else, he's still the bearer of the title, Raging God. Gritting his teeth, Du Huang lets loose his power and releases a roar so powerful it shatters all the arrows coming their way. Many of the archers themselves are even blown away, their helmets cracking from the impact. The other clan heads can only marvel at the realization that Du Huang has actually gotten stronger over the years. Of course the bad guy's got a bad guy like a brainless bad guy though. So the Tang head just yells that nobody's ever beaten the Tang family elite and screams at Du Huang to die. The Raging God is ready to throw hands then and there, but Suping stops him. He tells the man that there's no need to waste his energy on the small fry. With a single order from Suping, a hail of blue lightning races through the aerial army, frying and defeating a large number of them. The Zhou army has arrived. At their helm is none other than Su Kuang. Riding atop his Umbrageddon. The Tang head is shocked that the Zhou army could do what they just did considering the mediocrity of their trainers. That's what Suping reminds him just what exactly his store provides as a service. He has single-handedly turned them into a formidable fighting force. He commands Su Kuang to spare no one. With that, the Zhou army unleashed their raging Thunderbolt combo. In mere moments, the aerial army of the Tang family shows the signs of defeat, shocking the remaining clan heads. The Tang family head, whose name I cannot for the life of me remember, orders his army to spread out and stop crowding together. This order is as pointless as it is late though. Under Su Kuang's leadership, the Zhou army's tactics are easily holding off the aerial army's attacks, while simultaneously devastating said army in turn. The Tang head is infuriated by this turn of events. Yeah, that vein be throbbing, maybe zoom in on his forehead. As he wonders how in the hell his army has been so perfectly countered, it hits him. Turning to Su Ping, he sees the man's smirk and he realizes it. Su Ping knew that this ambush was going to happen from the start and he planned for it. If things go on, the aerial army will be totally wiped out. Without wasting another moment, he calls out for his army to retreat. Stu Kuong isn't having any of that though. Battle-hungry grin in place. He commands the Zhou army to annihilate their enemy and leave no one standing. Unnoticed by any of them, the Starry Skies Soldier King, Jackson, is muttering something. Coordinates to be precise. Up in the planet's orbit, the Starry Skies space station connects to Jackson. Moments later, an all-encompassing beam of flaming death shoots down from space right at the location of the Zhou army. In just a few seconds, many of their pets are devastated and incinerated. Luckily, Stu Kuong is protected by Umbrageddon's force field. As everyone raises their eyes to the sky above, Qin Du Huang recognizes the ultimate weapon of the Starry Skies and yells at his side to run. That thing up there is the 10,000-pound space atomic cannon. Hunter. I'd say it's a mouthful, but it is pretty cool. The clan heads who sided with the enemy take this as an omen of their victory and laugh about how they made the right decision. Just then, another beam is fired down from the space station, ready to decimate the rest of the Zhou army. Just as it's nearing the world's crust, though, a massive dragon emerges and shields them from the blast. Blaziken has come to the rescue with his grade 9 divine skill, Holy Iron Wall. I'll be real with y'all, I don't remember what he was called in the old translation. It's just Su Ping's Giga Charizard. Grin still in place, Su Ping says it's impressive that they managed to make Blaziken use his trump card. Meanwhile, everyone else is emotionally and mentally devastated by the whiplash of the greatest weapon in the world being seen as such a trivial matter by this man. No battle pet has ever taken on the cannon and continued to exist before. Jackson, unlike the rest, is on his guard now. As he mentally accepts that Su Ping truly is immensely powerful, he claims that this was all his test and he's satisfied. Stop the cap. Letting loose his own power, Jackson orders his men to summon their battle pets all together. Sure enough, not only his own soldiers but the clan heads who sided with them all summon their pets at once. Sky and Ling Ya are overwhelmed by the pressure being exerted as over 100 battle pets emerge, all belonging to grade 9 experts. A veritable army of truly demonic beings stares them in the face, terrifying most of the Zhou army. As this army of their enemies advances towards them, Su Ping stays calm and simply says he has to take Skelly back now, walking forward without a care in the world. Su Ping asks Du Huang and his son to keep Ling Ya safe. This won't take too long. Du Huang yells out behind him, worried that Su Ping is biting off more than he can chew. Who's gonna tell him? Su Ping, however, simply raises his arm over Skelly and activates his skill, Astral Reincarnation Blade. As everyone stares in shock at the legendary tier fusion skill, Su Ping stands as a new being. He is neither Su Ping nor Skelly. He is the one who will defeat. Okay, yeah? No, couldn't say that with a straight face. Either way, dude's a demon now. As the beasts descend upon him, Skelly Ping summons forth a ghastly blade of purple and waits for them to close in. The second they're in range, Su Ping flashes past them. In a single slash, he slashed the entire front line of battle pets into the next life. Jackson's army is heavily unnerved by this, and those in the back are ordered to take the front line spot immediately. Unfortunately, they're ripped apart and cut into ribbons by Su Ping before they can even begin to fill the gap in their forces. And as per Su Ping's plan, the loss of the battle tamers leaves their pets in a berserk state. In mere moments, they're on each other, wreaking havoc and ruining the formation. One of the tamers calls out for them to focus their efforts on killing the rogue beasts, but Su Ping swipes his blade across their throats like a knife through butter. Jackson's forces quickly realize what he's doing and try to stop him, but his sheer speed keeps him 10 steps ahead. All they can do is know what's happening as their forces get wiped to oblivion. On the other side of the battlefield, if it can even still be called that, Du Huan pumps his fist in satisfaction. In his mind, he praises Su Ping's ability and points out the difference between a legendary tier battle tamer like him and a beast king. Where the former would lose to the Starry Skies in a battle of attrition, that's mainly due to its lack of higher mental function. Su Ping, on the other hand, can take all that power and apply it to a strategy that's even now tearing his enemy apart from the inside. Turning to his son, Du Huang flashes him a thumbs up for getting them to pick the right side. Kid really did call it. The Starry Skies tamers decide to take a different approach since they can't get their hands on Su Ping himself. Instead, they send a wave of beasts at his sister, planning to use her as leverage. Unfortunately for them, The raging god and his son are no slouches. Between Du Huang, Sky, and the Zhou clan head, the wave is pushed back just long enough for reinforcements to arrive. Well, one reinforcement, but it's one hell of a thing. Blaziken has decided to join the battle and crushes some beasts getting close to Sky under a single foot. The boy is awed by just how versatile and powerful Blaziken's skill set is. Meanwhile, Stu Kuan has rallied the Zhou army from their momentary lapse and gets into position. As they charge into battle, Umbregeddon activates his murderous Thunder Domain and tears through several beasts. On the sidelines, the clan heads who sided with Starry Skies are finally realizing how thoroughly they've messed up. This fight is completely one-sided in favor of Suping's forces. Hindsight's a hell of a thing, ain't it? They're so screwed. Finally, Jackson himself makes a move, having been silent for the absolute chaos that's engulfed his forces. With one hand raised, he summons forth the blood-sucking demon and offers up the blood spilled on this battlefield as its fuel. Absorbing the energy of all the fallen beasts and tamers, the demon grows to a size that dwarfs even Blaziken. Those allies are unnerved. Suping shows no sign of worry, simply commenting that this is what Jackson's been waiting for all along. The man in question smugly has the demon bring down its blade, claiming that there's nothing Suping can do now. Unfortunately for him, Suping doesn't give a damn about how big his enemy is. Size doesn't matter, confirmed. Let's go, boys. Rising up in the air in front of the demon, Suping activates his divine demonic fist's second form. A massive golden specter forms around him and not only matches the demon's blow, but blows it apart at the shoulder. Down on the stadium floor, Mood is being tended to by her servant while observing Suping's power. She asks her servant, Ju, to get her the hell out of here so they can seek revenge at a later date. Unfortunately for them, Blaziken's shield against the space beam is still in effect and traps them inside. Right as they realize this, Suping decapitates the blood-sucking demon. Moon turns around to see why her guards are yelling for her, only to see the demon's corpse en route to crush her. Up at a space station of the Starry Skies, a meeting takes place between their High Chancellor and several council members. The Chancellor shares the information of the battle that just took place and the end result of Jackson's defeat. However, due to Blaziken's shield, they were unable to see everything that happened. Because of this, the Chancellor believes that Suping is just a supreme tier and the legendary tier that defeated the blood-sucking demon and tanked Hunter is someone else backing him. Oh boy, I see where this is going. Head's gonna roll up in here. Down at the remains of the destroyed stadium, Su Kuang is looking for survivors and calls to Suping that there are none. Somehow, he completely misses the 3 giant hunks of metal coming down from space right behind him. Rather than answering, Suping just tells him that they've got new guests coming in and to welcome them. Following his command, the Zhou army tamers in the area gather around the shuttle that has just descended from the sky. As the door opens, the Chancellor floats out and angrily tells them to step down. Realizing that this man is a supreme tier, they do so. The bearded old Pope wannabe steps out and tells Suping he's here to negotiate. Down below, the captured and defeated Jackson and friends yell out in joy at seeing their superior here to save them. Suping just sends a discouraging look their way. Getting the message, Du Huang and Old Joe use a mute spell on Jackson and Old Tom. The Starry Skies Council members behind the Chancellor are angered by this and speak out, but the fake Pope ignores them. He addresses Suping and asks him what his conditions are, requesting that he spare them. In the distance, Stu Kuang shrieks at the Chancellor for speaking to his master like he's above him. The council members bristle again when he threatens their leader, but the old man lets it slide. Never change Kuang. Since the Chancellor can't sense any legendary tiers in the area, he assumes they've already left and decides that Suping won't be any real trouble now. He asks the man how he's going to make up for killing a whole team of grade 9 experts. Pretending to be generous, he offers to spare Suping's life if he hands over Jackson. Suping simply chuckles and asks what happens if he refuses. Instantly, the council members start yapping about how he's arrogant and nothing before their leader. Standard bad guy bullcrap. It really gets old after a while, knowing how much they're underestimating him. Suping asks them if they want to make a bet. From his position on the ground, Jackson hears this and realizes his leader is about to be bent over and screwed. The Chancellor mistakes his muted yells for encouragement though and asks Suping what his bet is. The young man tells the Chancellor that if he can withstand Suping's attacks for just 3 seconds, he can take his people and leave. If not, he must accept Suping as his master and serve under him. Well, guess we know what happens now. The Chancellor believes Suping is just an overconfident idiot and gladly accepts the bet. He's convinced that he'll crush the boy's spirit with ease. Meanwhile, Jackson desperately fights against his gag, mentally screaming at the Chancellor not to take the bet. Ready to put Suping in his place, the Chancellor starts summoning his battle pets. As he repeats the conditions of Ping's bet, he fully calls forth 5 dragons and asks what he'll do against a defense using his full power. With his dragon summon, Su Ping takes a disinterested look and simply asks if that's it. Shocked and more than a little frustrated, the Chancellor wonders how the hell this kid isn't afraid of him when his pets are so ridiculously powerful. As Su Ping opens up a dimensional tier for his own pet to emerge from, the Chancellor even sees a small smirk on his face, angering the Fox Pope even more. The Chancellor unleashes his true power, streams of blue energy flowing off his body. As his clothes tear from the expansion of muscles, the old man crashes into the ground with the power of his beasts. His hair is turned into a flowing river of blue flame, and he tells Su Ping that he'll show him the strength he had 70 years ago. "All right, Grandpa, time for your daily meds." Facing down Su Ping, he tells the boy that if he pulls any cheap tricks, that he'll face the fiery temper of the Starry Skies Master. Blah blah blah, how long is Gramps gonna keep yapping? Behind him, the council members recognize the Chancellor's move as a forbidden art that strengthens the body at the cost of the user's lifespan. Though they're excited by this, Jackson and Old Tong only increase their efforts to get warning out. Su Ping raises one arm parallel to the ground before activating Beast Possession. With fear and apprehension entering the Chancellor's eyes, Ping remembers when he entered his inner plane. There, he sees the options window asking which skill he wishes to use, based on the description of the BP skill. Su Ping decides to pick it out and use it. There's quite a bit of stuff he wants to test. Normally, he wouldn't be able to since he literally destroyed anyone he tested his moves on. But this old guy, he's come all the way from space just to be a nice little punching bag for Su Ping, so why not use him accordingly? Now, in the present, Su Ping uses his skill to call forth Blazarkhan and Fuse. Scales cover his arms and body little by little until eventually he stands as a dark knight with draconic features and wings. The council members are in shock upon seeing the power of a legendary tier tamer. On the other side, Du Huang realizes that Ping has likely reached the second stage of the legendary tier known as the Void Realm. In his new form, Su Ping dashes forward so fast he parts the clouds themselves. As soon as he tells his enemy to start the timer, he throws up a 9-layered shield using the power of his dragons. What happens next causes the Chancellor to realize that there is no extra person in the background. The legendary tier is Su Ping. You don't say, Sherlock. For his part, Su combines his demon subjugation with the dragon's fist to unleash a devastating attack. Said attack shatters all 9 shields and hits the Chancellor with such force he's convinced he'll die. Instantly, the old man yields and screams that he admits defeat. Su Ping lets up when he hears the police to be spared. As the Chancellor lays defeated and slowly recovers, Su Ping goes up to him and says he only lasted 1.83 seconds. Sounding almost genuine, he asks if the Chancellor would like to try again. After what just happened though, the old man knows his place fully well. With sweat flowing down his face, he declares Su Ping as the new master of the Starry Skies, the greatest organization of the subcontinent. Later on at Su Ping's Astral Pet Store, a massive spike in customers can be seen. Thanks to the headlines from the tournament, everyone knows Ling Yao won and is a member of this store. Between that and the pre-existing reputation of having incredible success rates, the work's busier than ever for Ryo-an Tong and Anna. It's while they're manning the main counter that Ryo-an spots Su Ping entering with a massive procession of people behind him. Among them, Ryo-an spots her father and stares at him with shock. When he completely ignores her and turns away though, she gets suspicious. Quickly putting the puzzle pieces together, Ryo-an realizes that her father and the other clan heads must be here to launch a surprise attack on Su Ping. With this, he'll stand no chance and she can show him the might of the Tong family's aerial army. This chick's further behind on the story than Internet Explorer. After seeing her father and coming to her own misguided conclusion, Ryo-an Tong is unusually nice to customers at the counter. Anna notices this and asks her what's gotten into the woman. She replies that her father has united the major families to negotiate with Su Ping and get her freed. Didn't she think they were going to fight? Wonan's thoughts are all over the place. Turning to Anna, she tells the angel that if she gets out of here, she'll help her escape as well. Yeah, that'll totally happen. As she's saying this though, Ryo-an realizes that it's been a strangely long amount of time since they all went into the back room. Losing out to her curiosity, Ryo-an Tong sneaks over to the room and cracks open the door just a little bit to eavesdrop. Instead of any equal-footed negotiations, she sees something that shocks her to the core. Su Ping is standing in front of all the clan heads donning the black ink armor, a treasured family heirloom of the Tong family which protects the wearer from all astral and mental attacks up to grade 9. Not only has her family casually given that away to Su Ping, The table behind them is loaded with similar treasures from all the great families. Before she can draw any conclusions, the now former Chancellor of Starry Skies senses her presence. Using a small portion of his power, he yanks Rio on into the room while demanding that she show herself. Kinda redundant, but he's old. Can't blame him for the dementia. Rio on falls to her knees in front of the Chancellor and other clan heads, wondering what the hell just happened. The Chancellor asks her how she dares to eavesdrop on a classified conversation, causing her to tremble in fear and wonder why Suping isn't being treated like an enemy. The man in question recognizes her and asks her to bring him some tea without a moment's pause. Before she leaves to get some and get out of this situation, he tells her to bring tea for all his guests as well. As Ryo-an starts serving the tea, the former Chancellor thinks about how Suping didn't even care about her eavesdropping. Either he doesn't care about the treasures at all or he values her far more than them. Either way, he believes that bringing any kind of harm to Ryo-an will call on Suping's wrath. After breaking into a cold sweat at that idea, he quietly apologizes to Ryo-an for his outburst and asks her not to tell Suping about it. My brother in Christ, it literally happened in front of him. He just doesn't give a damn. For her part, Ryo-an Tong is at a loss. This man emits the power of a pinnacle grade 9 even passively and seems to have been hired by her dad to handle Suping. So what's going on exactly? Meanwhile, the clan heads are having a little telepathic spat of their own. All the others are upset with old Tong after coming to the conclusion that he planted his daughter here beforehand to curry favor with Suping. Tong insists that Suping kidnapped her himself, but the others don't buy it for a second. After all, they can sense how much more powerful she's gotten in her time under Suping. Why the hell would he help a prisoner get stronger? Just standard MC behavior, man. Not much else to it. As the clan heads continue their bickering, none of them believing Tong, Ryo-an makes her way to her father with the tea. While pouring his cup, she asks him if the aerial army has arrived and when they'll take action. Confused, the man asks what she means. Upon hearing what she thinks is going on, old Tong grabs his face in exasperation. Instead of any comforting lies, he tells Ryo-an that she must stay with Suping and remain obedient to him. When his daughter deadpans at him, he explains that something happened to their clan and it's being merged with the Sin and Su families. More importantly, they are now all subjects of Suping. Her ability to gain his favor will decide their clan's future. Seeing his plan, the other clan heads clamor to offer up their own children as servants for Suping. Unfortunately for them, he tells them to stop and states that he already has enough workers here. Keyword being here. He tells them his plans going forward. Since they all have such vast amounts of land to their clan's names, they are each to open a branch of the Astral Pet Store in their territory. Their heirs will be assigned to managing those branches and their performance will decide their future. If they do well enough, they'll be granted the same role as Ryo-an, that of temporary employee. However, if they're mediocre or use the store to their own personal advantage, well, let's just say their clan won't be left very happy. And so, after getting some forced applause, Suping has the system upgrade his store to level 4. With this, he can now teleport to any branch of his store at the cost of 10,000 chi points. Using that ability, he shouldn't even have that much trouble setting up a branch on Mars. After the system informs him that the store upgrade will begin tonight, Suping receives a message from Dao Zun. It simply says that there's progress in the Dragon Platform's secret realm. After dismissing everyone else, Suping stands in front of a massive holographic map which he uses to mark off new store locations. He plans out how to manage the resources for the new branches from incubators to foster slots. Once he's done, the system finalizes the plans for the branch stores and tells him as much. Next, there's just a couple more things he has to do before heading out for the secret world. Outside the room, Suping is met by Ling Yat and Su Kuang, who Anna has brought at his request. Since he's going on a trip, he asks them if they still want to go to the wasteland like they previously discussed. Su Kuang is nothing but fired up, eager for the chance to get more experience and battle power under his belt. On the other hand, Ling Yat is determined to go as well but more to prove herself. After losing in the finals, she can't help but feel like a failure. Luckily, her brother comes in and reassures her that it wasn't her shortcomings that caused it. The match between her and Moon may have seemed to be legitimate, but the fact is there were a lot of outside influences. If she'd been up against literally anyone else, he knows she would have won. With that said, he brings out 2 secret treasures for his students. The first, Defense of the Water Armor, is a dynamic treasure that will strengthen along with her own power. The other treasure, a Soul Calming Lamp, is for Su Kuang, due to his weakness in spiritual defense. He then gives Anna instructions on dealing with the new branches and inspecting their work since he'll be gone for a few days. Before heading out, he takes Xu Kuang and Ling Ya to Pioneer Base Number 7. There, he meets Yo Jisa, the current leader of the North Star Battle Group and old friend to Ping. The pet store trio walk up to him as he instructs his team on how best to harvest their catch. Su Ping introduces his sister and student to Yo Jisa and tells them that they'll be practicing with him for the foreseeable future. With the North Star Warriors being known as the best, both tamers are honored to train with them. As they step towards the rest of the team, Ping asks Yo Jisa about the condition of Captain Mia's daughter. Though she's recovered physically thanks to Ping, her mental health will take longer due to the loss of her lover. That's rough, buddy. Mood slightly dampened. Su Ping tells Yo Jisa that he has business to attend to and leaves with a rain check on dinner when they ask him to stay. As he walks away, Ping frustratedly thinks that he could have prevented that tragedy if he'd been stronger. He must have tamed the Dragon King's legacy, sounding an awful lot like a future anime villain man. Later, a shooting star plummets to a crash landing at the Dragon platform, the entrance to the secret realm of the Dragon. Except this is no space rock. It's a man of immense power wreathed in a cloak of black and golden energy. Su Ping has arrived, and he's more than a little annoyed to see the people trying to block entrance into the Dragon realm. The gathered crowd erupts in murmurs and whispers about him as even the most out-of-touch people are aware of the man who broke into the secret realm alone in front of the Tang family. As Su Ping comes closer, the men blocking it off tell him to back off or get blown up. Not the best options, if I'm being honest. Su Ping instantly works out that someone is trying to steal the secret realm's legacy. Infuriated by his claim, the guarding men yell at him about how Lord Hara has the Chancellor's blessing and a commoner like him must back off. They ain't seen the tourney footage, have they? Upon hearing the men speak of the will of the heavens, Su Ping instantly whips out his communicator and sends a set of coordinates to the hunter in space. Moments later, a laser sight appears on the location of the men, showing them that Su Ping is in control of the Starry Sky's ultimate weapon. And if he has that, it means he is the one in control of everything. The men don't waste a second in falling to their knees and begging his help. They explain that the Chancellor's closest relatives are attacking the Tower of Dragon Bones and beg him not to harm them. Walking to the entrance with clenched fists and a calm demeanor, Su Ping says that as long as nobody offends him, he too shall leave them alone. As soon as Su Ping enters the Dragon Realm, the men keeping watch over it contact their leader, Lord Yatakin. They inform him that Su Ping has entered, waking him from his recovery in an onsen. Stranger ain't like we haven't seen stranger. Moving on. When Yatakin learns that Su Ping has invaded the Dragon Realm, he asks about their other teams and what they're doing. The men inform him that they're all on duty. As soon as their heiress, Yuan Linglu, passes the 9th floor of the Dragon Bone Tower, they'll swoop in and clear the final area. Bunch of cheesers. Yatakin is infuriated by Su Ping's arrival at such a terrible time. If he didn't know better, he'd say the boy plans to use Yuan as a free ride. Does he know better? Well, we'll see, I guess. Wanting to take out Su Ping, the group start hatching a plan to deal with him for good. Over with the man of the hour, he's just made it to the Dragon Bone Tower and steps in the main entrance. A voice informs him that he's passed the 9th floor test, so no time needs to be wasted on the previous trials. And so, Su Ping makes his way to the top of the tower using the elevator. As it's going up, Su Ping thinks of the clear conditions for the top floor. During his turn, it was to withstand 10 minutes of constant attacks from the Golden Scalarkin. As such, only an individual at the level of a prestigious clan leader can pass this stage. Right as he's wondering what tactics Yuan Linglu used, the elevator stops and he sees a shocking scene. Linglu has passed the test on her own physical strength and equipment alone, without even summoning any battle pets. Su Ping can sense that her cultivation itself is on the same level as his own, but since he came at the end of the trial, he doesn't know how exactly she fights. He wonders if he should test her out a bit, but suddenly has a deliciously savage idea. Unleashing his power in a shroud around him, Su Ping obscures his features and steps towards Linglu. The girl stands off against him, demanding to know who he is since her grandfather Yatakin has had this realm sealed off. Rather than answering her question, Su Ping asks one of his own. Is she a challenger looking to inherit his legacy? The man is cosplaying as the old Dragon King's true form to mislead Linglu. She suspects as much at first since her grandfather has told her of Su Ping before, but Su Ping is nothing if not persuasive. He calls forth his energy in the shape of a dragon head and has the visage roar out. Once more, he calls out to Linglu and claims that he has been waiting for a successor for tens of thousands of years. Reviewing her knowledge after the massive roar, Linglu decides that it's not out of the question for some legendary creatures to disguise themselves as human due to their intelligence. It does help that she straight up can't sense Su Ping's cultivation. Suping can see that she needs just one more push over the edge and does so by pretending to play hard to get. Instantly, Ling Lu makes the choice to believe him and begs him to grant her the inheritance. Meanwhile, Suping is barely suppressing his laughter and decides to mess with her just for fun. He tells Ling Lu that this tower is not his true burial ground but rather a decoy tomb. His true tomb is located 72 miles south of this tower. Ling Lu thanks him and prepares to move out when Suping stops her. He tells her that since the dragon tomb is protected by an anti-weapon barrier, she'll need to leave all of her equipment here in his safekeeping before leaving. Having fully fallen for his lies, Ling Lu gladly does as he says and hands over her stuff. Outside the Dragon Realm entrance, Yadakin arrives and is ready to go in and support his granddaughter fully alongside all their soldiers. Inside the realm, an ethereal dragon erupts from the tower and coils around it like a snake. It says that its king's soul has recovered and speaks to its successor. It has been waiting for them all for tens of thousands off. Hang on. Why is she stripping? Quickly catching on to what has happened, Ling Lu pulls her armor back on with a blush and a furious glare at Suping. Said man just scoffs, leaving her even more upset. As the two bicker, the great dragon watches and wonders just what the hell he's woken up to. One of the candidates here is a sheltered girl who's never experienced true competition and setbacks. The other, well, he's a scheming, deceitful, plundering liar. No matter who receives his inheritance, the dragon can't help but feel it won't be used properly or the way he wants it to be. Are there really no other candidates? Nope, just gotta suck it up. Deciding to get serious, Suping turns to the dragon and tells him to get started. Since the trial is already locked off to others by Ling Lu's clansmen and grandpa, there won't be any other candidates coming in. Even if it doesn't want to, the dragon only has two choices now. Said dragon is taken aback by the casual attitude this young man has towards him, but it's not new to him, only irritating to the extreme. Regardless, he's unfortunately not wrong either. Besides, maybe a little confidence will be a good thing for him. With that decided, the dragon tears a rip into the walls of reality itself and opens a portal. He tells Ling Lu and Suping that they passed the initial test and may enter the final through this hole. Without a second thought, the two enter, only to find themselves standing in the middle of a never-ending void. In front of them is the gargantuan ribcage and spine of some long-forgotten beast, because that's not ominous at all. While Ling Lu wonders if this is the final trial, Suping tries to use his astral power and learns that it's suppressed in this dimension due to the highly strong and unknown force pressing down on them. Said force is making it harder to condense his power on a larger scale. As such, he can't use spiritual flight, open a rift, or even summon Blaziken. While he's been making these discoveries, Ling Lu has realized she needs to climb higher on the giant spine than Suping to win this. Instantly, she races at the thing and starts leaping across ribs to get higher. Suping himself decides to use a simpler approach and propels himself up with his astral power, leaping multiple ribs at once. Right as he lands, a horde of skeletons start clawing at him from within the bone. Suping is quick to blow them away and realize something vital. These things aren't real. After all, his cloak's auto-dodge ability isn't triggering even in the slightest from their attacks. These things are merely an illusion. Quickly, Suping focuses his energy and releases a massive roar that blows the whole illusion apart and scatters it away. He realizes that the things in here may be an illusion, but they're so realistic feelings that they force the body's natural defense system into overdrive. Now that he knows this, though, the tactic has nothing on him. The goal here is to test the very limits of both one's mental and physical strength. So that's exactly what he'll go ahead and do. At the same time, Ling Lu faces her own challenges, slashing apart an illusory dragon and then a fake version of her grandpa who spouts profanity at her. Compared to her grandfather's training, this is nothing to her. After beating her opponents, Ling Lu advances all the way to the 17th floor of the spine and wonders how far Suping has gotten. Right as she thinks that, he appears behind her and blazes past, leaping onto the next rib. Frustrated at his speed in passing her, Ling Lu gives chase even as Suping rips apart all the illusions in his path. For Suping, this is little more than a walk in the park after getting used to it, especially compared to the death cycle in the nurturing grounds. Now, his only concern is how many floors he'll be able to climb before giving out. 30 pass by, then 50, then 90, and it all becomes a blur. Eventually, the dragon calls out to tell Suping that the trial is over. At his confusion, the dragon explains that his competitor, Ling Lu, already lost consciousness way back on the 33rd floor. As for Suping himself, he has reached no less than the 143rd floor. The great dragon heals all of Ling Lu's wounds so she can stand alongside Suping to hear whatever is next. The dragon explains to her that Suping won the first trial, but the one to inherit his will must win 2 trials. Sounds like a cop-out to me, but whatever. When Linglu grits her teeth and displays anger at losing to that despicable man, the great dragon tells her it's far too early to speak of winners or losers. Then, he offers some exposition on the first challenge. The weight of gravity acting on them increases once every 10 levels that they rise up. As a simple human, just climbing the first 10 is enough to prove oneself worthy. As such, Linglu's 33 levels are enough that he will grant her a gift no matter what. Suping asks why he's not getting anything like that, and the dragon just says he doesn't need it. I mean, he's not wrong, but what the hell? That's some major favoritism. Linglu is stunned upon hearing that the dragon will grant her a gift exclusively. She wonders if it thinks she can actually win the inheritance, raising her spirits greatly. Smile plastered on. She asks the dragon to start the next trial. Internally, said dragon sighs at how her talent is being wasted. That's why he's giving her a gift, so she doesn't die too early. Meanwhile, talents like Suping are a once-in-a-millennia kind of deal. If the heavens decide to wipe him out, there needs to be a backup. Putting that aside, the dragon declares the second trial to be combat-based. The two contenders must simply defeat each other to win. At once, Linglu calls forth 3 different battle pets and orders them to show how strong they are. The beasts that emerge are an oversized chicken, with Antonang and a couple of equally oversized parrots. I think. The chicken fires a beam of, well, fire straight at Suping, causing a massive explosion. Once it clears through, she sees that the blast was completely tanked by Suping's Umbrageddon. Linglu is shocked that a mere grade 9 beast could tank a hit from the purple-collared phoenix and be completely unharmed. The only answer she can think of is that the beast is an illusion, and so she charges forward to go through it, only for that theory to fall as flat as Umbrageddon's paw in her face. After being tossed away like a ragdoll, Linglu scrambles to form a new strategy. Meanwhile, Suping looks at her with a disinterested expression and asks if this is all she can do. Infuriated by his attitude, Linglu has her chicken activate its inherited skill. Brilliant Supreme Flame, man, the creativity on these names is just awe-inspiring. No, really. The chicken, which is now fully covered in a layer of flames, rises up and shoots a gout of flame towards Suping. Once more, both he and Umbrageddon just stand in place, totally unaffected by the girl and her pet's attack. Seeing this, Linglu is pushed to her last resort, a move which she has yet to perfect but finds herself forced to use. Drawing her sword, she pulls a vortex of flame from her chicken into its blade, creating a massive pillar of light and heat where the edge was before. As she brings it down and fires the attack, Linglu calls out its name. The brilliant Phoenix Supreme Flame Slice. God, these names hurt me. They're so crap. As the attack closes in on him, Suping's expression finally changes and a grin forms on his face. He compliments the attack and tells her that out of respect for it, he'll have Umbrageddon withstand this move with his full power. To do so, the beast activates a laundry list of buffs: Murderous Thunder Domain, Draco Scales, Yale Protection, Hard Shell, and Electro Coat form layers over Umbrageddon, amassing in a bubble-shaped shield around him. The flaming slash makes contact with the sphere and the two are locked in a battle for dominance. Linglu puts every ounce of strength she has into driving the attack forward, and the offshoots of energy from the clash can be felt as far as out in the real world itself. Yadakin's men sing praises of his granddaughter upon sensing her energy, but the old man only frowns. Back inside, Linglu finally breaks through Umbrageddon's shield. Unfortunately, that's where she stops. Her attack is enough to break through, but not enough to reach Umbrageddon himself. As the girl collapses, the dragon announces the winner of the second trial to be Suping. In the aftermath of the heavily one-sided battle, the great dragon heals Linglu and announces that Suping has achieved 2 victories, and thus become the inheritor of the ancient dragon legacy. Then, as if to pour salt on the wound, he asks Linglu if she accepts this. Sitting there, tears drip down the girl's face as she cries over her loss. She didn't even manage to touch him. She brings her sword to her throat, apologizes to her grandfather for bringing shame on him, and prepares to end it all. As he watches this, Suping internally asks why she can't just accept it. It's clear as day that she's plenty capable regardless of what happened here. Unable to just watch her waste her life, Suping leaps forward with a flying kick to Linglu's stomach, throwing her into a barrel roll across the void. Once she gets up from the cartoonish flight she just experienced, she asks Suping what the hell he's doing. Even the dragon looks sheepish, doubly so since he had just finished healing her. Rather than being honest, Suping simply says that he swore to use his power for good, and that means preventing the fallout from her chicken Phoenix going berserk if she offs herself while contracted to it. And that's not to mention how terrible it is to abandon your pets in the first place. He'll never say it, but really, He just didn't want her to throw away her life when she deserves to live. Rose a whole tsundere and a half. Irritated by his reasoning, Linglu demands that he say that again. Instead, Suping plugs his store and tells her she's welcome to come get her pets upgraded anytime. Meanwhile, the great dragon just watches with an increasingly sheepish expression at their ridiculous conversation. He's had enough for now and tells them that that's enough chatter. He brings out 3 glowing red magatama beads and reveals that they are true dragon blood crystals. He bestows these upon Linglu as per his promise to give her a gift. The crystals can serve 3 purposes: deterring king beasts and saving you from a fatal situation, improving your physique via consuming it, and even acting as a replacement for some rare cultivation materials. These crystals can do any of those things. As Linglu thanks him and promises to live up to his expectations, the dragon tells her to step aside as the real inheritance begins now. Yikes, pretty cold for a fire dragon. As she fades away from the void back into the real world, Linglu calls out to Suping and makes a vow. In 3 years' time, she will surpass him. Yeah, that'll totally happen. Suping just casually tells her to challenge him whenever she wants and watches her leave. Now, alone with the dragon, Suping wonders how incredible the true inheritance must be if even the consolation prize for Linglu is so amazing. Suddenly, he's transported to the dragon's soul's origin world. Here, a single gold coffin dangles above a lake, suspended by several chains. All around them are heaps upon heaps of 9th level and even king beast level secret treasures for all manner of purposes. The dragon tells him he can take as many of them as he wants since they'll disappear from this realm if left here anyways. Hearing this, Suping goes on the equivalent of a rabid shopping spree and scoops up every single treasure he can see into his storage scrolls. The only thing he's unable to collect is the central coffin. Leaving that alone, Suping even goes to take the very water from the lake into one of his scrolls. The dragon asks him to hold off on that for a moment and lets him take the water after setting the coffin's chains ablaze with the water as a catalyst, because that makes total sense, right? From inside the coffin, a husk of a draconic body is revealed. This is the resting place of the great dragon's actual soul. He declares himself the great Yan True Dragon King, and his soul rushes towards Suping, planning to make him a descendant of the true dragon bloodline. Unfortunately for old Yan, Suping has no interest in switching up on his ancestors. His golden spectral avatar appears above him and grabs the dragon's soul like a bug. The dragon is stunned to see the avatar and learn that Suping is a descendant of the mystical Jinwu beast. Said beast tosses the dragon's soul away from Suping. With no anchor left in his existence fading fast, the dragon's soul makes a desperate move and launches itself at Umbrageddon instead. Since he has a trace of dragon lineage, this should work. It has to. As the soul launches itself inside Umbrageddon's body, he becomes engulfed in a shell of golden threads. Suping can only look at it incredulously and ask one question. The inheritance got passed on to his dog. Outside in the real world, Linglu returns to her grandfather and their forces with a downcast expression. When he sees how defeated she looks, he instantly puts up a soundproof barrier around the two of them so they can speak in privacy. He asks her again if something has happened. She just says sorry and tells him the inheritance has been taken by Suping. Falling to her knees, she begs him to punish her. However, the old man simply sighs and helps her up. He asks her if Suping harmed her and is relieved to learn he did no such thing. Internally, he thinks about the true events that took place at the end of the Elite League. Unlike the story fed to the media, he knows the truth of what Suping did there. He can't possibly fault his granddaughter for losing to such a man. Damn to Gramps at least. Just then, Linglu remembers the gift given to her by the great dragon and brings the crystals out of her bed anchors. Almost instantly her mood improves and she tells her grandpa that she'll be sure to beat the villain next time using these. Yadikin is quite pleased to see that she's matured from the girl who would cry whenever things didn't go her way. Yup, sounds like her alright. Hasn't changed a bit. With that taken care of, Yadikin tells Linglu to go home. He must stop Suping from accepting the inheritance or he will become an even greater threat than he already is. Inside the tower, Suping silently observes the shell Umbrageddon is inside. He's been in there for about half a day now and shows no signs of consciousness inside. Regardless, Suping refuses to abandon a pet and decides to stay by his side until he can emerge. He doesn't care what comes out or how long it takes. He won't leave without his pet. While sitting there, he notices weeds growing around the shell. Suping realizes the dragon essence from the shell is so dense it's feeding its surroundings with astral power. Suping instantly realizes the immense benefits this can have for cultivation and gets to it while sitting next to the shell. In the outside world, it has now been 7 days since Linglu came out and Yadikin's men are still unable to break through to the tower. One of the men suggests that Suping may have already escaped, but Yadikin shoots down that idea since the tower is still radiating power. Right as he's giving further orders, the top of the tower erupts in a pillar of golden light. Before their eyes, Suping emerges from the pillar, but he's not alone. Coiled around his body is an absolute behemoth of a golden dragon. The sheer oppressiveness from the beast's roar brings them all to their knees. Suping floats down to face Yadakin in his extra drippy new fit and asks him what he was saying just now. Unable to comprehend this dragon's power, Yadakin can only plead with Suping to spare his life. All he can tell for sure is that this dragon's power is no less than that of a king beast. Suping takes a few more moments to enjoy the terrified expression on Yadakin and his forces, but he soon lets up and asks what they want. From their stance, it's clear they wanted to take Suping out before he could absorb the dragon inheritance. Yadakin insists that it's a misunderstanding. Afraid for his life at this point, Suping decides to be merciful. He tells Yadakin that since he had the decency to keep from harming his family, he too didn't hurt Ling Lu. But now, Longjiang City is his, and he is alone. So as long as they stay away from him, he'll stay away from them. That's so hard. Kinda like me right now, who said that. On their way home through the skies, Umbrageddon releases the technique he's been using known as the dragon form art. With this, his draconic appearance subsides and reveals his original body now clad in golden fur, horns, and armor. He is now the Great Yan Celestial Dragon Hound. A quick flashback to Suping's conversation with the dragon spirit a few days ago reveals that Umbrageddon is now so powerful he can't be allowed to access his full strength. Right now, he only has about 10% of his power unsealed, and even that has him above the 9th tier limit. When all the seals on his power are eventually broken, Umbrageddon will be in a class even above the legendary tier, the Starry Sky Realm. With his last moments, the great dragon wished Suping luck on his quest to get stronger and told him to take care. Now, finally back home at his store, Ping receives a letter from Rioan. According to her, it came from another continent addressed to him. It's a letter sent from the Holy Light Base City's Beast Instructor Association. God, that is a mouthful. After taking the letter from Rioan, Suping thinks about how he doesn't really know anything about Holy Light City other than having a huge beast training industry. Information being as important as it is, he decides to call up the most experienced person he knows for a crash course. Said person is the Starry Skies Chancellor, who takes crash course a bit too literally with his space shuttle landing right outside the store. After getting seated in the meeting room, Suping asks the Chancellor to explain everything he can about Holy Light City in detail. The old man gives him a quick rundown on the city system used in their world. C-tier base cities are mostly used as outposts and are only capable of handling 9th tier beast waves. B-tier cities are the most common and can hold off several beast waves with several king beasts within them. Their own Longjiang City is actually classified as one of these. And finally, there are A-tier cities. They excel in all aspects and are difficult for king beasts to even breach at all. There are only 7 of these in each continental area, and Holy Light City is one of them. Simple enough. The star walls are pretty on the nose though. He goes on to explain how, much like blacksmiths in the past, beast tamers are now the masters creating weapons for the people to slay their enemies with. Holy Light City is said to be where the first beast instructors were born. Because of that and the diversity it brought to the city, it's something of a holy land for beast tamers. Back in its glory days, the city produced tons of spirit tier beast tamers and in turn, tons of legendary tier battle pet masters. Things aren't quite the same these days. Far from it in fact, but the reputation of the city remains intact. They've most likely sent Suping a letter in hopes of recruiting him for their city. Suping is content where he is, but he knows most of his pet cultivation is dependent on the system. If ever stops working one day, he'll be done for. With that in mind, he decides to accept the invitation so he can go learn some things. The Chancellor tries to have him take a teleporter there, but Suping isn't into the attention they'll draw. Instead, the Chancellor offers to get him a ticket for a deep track underground train to be more low-key. Not long after that, Suping learns that the Chancellor has no damn clue what low-key means. After stepping onto the ridiculously expensive train, Suping pretty much instantly gets dragged into a mess. Some rich dude's Scarlet Shadow Dragon Hound is going berserk because it managed to consume some form of sugar. When the hound moves to attack an innocent passenger, Suping leaps into action and grabs the beast in a chokehold. He quietly whispers to it, hoping to put it to sleep when another voice breaks onto the scene. This one a woman's. She quickly tells Suping to ease up as Scarlet Dragon Hounds can't actually be choked. Instead, they start losing their life from the lack of air. She tells him she's a beast instructor and can calm it down, so Suping lets the dog down, allowing her to work her magic. In just a second, she manages to hypnotize the canine and put it straight to sleep. Seeing Suping's impressed look, she explains that she's using specialized gloves which can control astral power accurately enough to enhance hypnotic effects. Or to put it simply, magic gloves make you go night-night. This woman is Zhang Lingtong. Unfortunately, the dog's owner finally decides to show his face, only to start whining about how they put their hands on his dog and will pay for it. Suping doesn't have the patience for this right now and forces the guy onto his knees with one hand. He looks down at him with dead eyes and orders him to apologize and leave. Sure enough, the dude's terrified and does just that. Shortly after that, Suping is returning to his personal compartment when an attendant brings him a little strawberry cake. When Suping tells her he didn't order that, she tells him it's from Miss Zhang, over on the other side of the car. The girl waves from her compartment and thanks Suping for what he did earlier. With a smile and thank you, Suping moves to accept the cake. Just then, a deafening bang sounds out across the car, causing the attendant to drop the cake. Luckily, Suping catches it before looking up to see what just happened. The ceiling is completely distorted. Something is outside the train, and it's not friendly. Passengers all over the train are losing the proverbial crap at the news that enraged beasts are attacking the vessel. The attendant from before tries to calm them down and tell them about their 8th tier battle pet master guards, but she's so terrified herself that it doesn't do much. Suping simply slips into his compartment quietly and sets down his cake. Even on a simple train journey, he can't get some peace and quiet. He uses astral power detection and quickly spots the 7th tier rock armored beasts attacking the roof of the train. At the same time, there's also a 9th tier black venom 100 claw dragon attacking another part of the roof. The train's armed guards are just about to engage them when Suping leaps out of his window and onto the roof. Before the lead guard can finish yelling a warning to him, Suping has already destroyed the venom claw dragon with his bare fists. Seeing their superior beaten so easily, the rock beasts run away in an instant, terrified of Suping. As they should be, dude's more of a beast than any one of them. The guard sincerely thanks Suping for his help, and the two have a short talk about why those monsters just showed up. From what the guard explains, there's only one reason a beast as high as 9th tier would come up to this level from its habitat deeper underground. Something even more terrifying is down there and it's scaring the other beasts. Yeah, that is not a comforting thought at all, dude. Later in his private room, Suping meditates and thinks about how he can improve Long Jiang's transportation security. With the revelation of a possible new beast, Suping decides that his city needs to be developed into an A-tier base. The next day, the train arrives in Holy Light City and Suping disembarks the vessel at the same time as Miss Zhang. When Suping asks if she knows where he can find the Beast Instructor Association, she just laughs and tells him to follow her. Not long after that, the two arrive at Heavenly Dragon Academy. Zhang shows the guards at the entrance her Beast Tamer ID to get in. Since he doesn't actually have one, Suping shows them the invitation letter that he was sent instead. Instantly, the guards take on an even more respectful tone and usher him inside. Next to him, Zhang is practically hopping in place with excitement and asks if he's some kind of secret beast master in disguise. Suping just tells her she's been reading too many novels and he doesn't even have an ID. But she's not actually wrong though. What's up with that man? Once they're inside, Zhang invites Suping to watch a performance match at the arena with her. There, Suping learns about how exactly beast instructor matches work. Rather than just sending in their pre-trained beasts, both contestants have to tame a wild beast without a contract, show them that they can control it to some level, and then temporarily enhance any part of their body with a set selection of training materials provided on the field. Then the battle begins. Suping watches on as the current two contestants Grey Gale Sparrow and Forest Ape clash. While the Sparrow has the upper hand at first with its enhanced wings, the Forest Ape waits for the perfect moment and launches a counterattack, which shreds the Sparrow on some spikes that emerge from its back. That's a little brutal, is it not? Do they not have Pita in this universe? Suping is quite impressed with the idea behind these matches. They don't just battle with creatures. They're being tested on their ability to unlock any given pet's potential, analyze the situation, and make the appropriate enhancements to secure their win. Just then, a group of guys walk onto the viewing platform and their leader addresses Zhang. Though he seems friendly at first, it quickly becomes apparent that these people are only interested in bullying and belittling her. Unwilling to watch any more of the disgusting display, Suping steps in and defends Zhang, stating that her taming ability is perfectly fine and they're the ones making a nuisance of themselves. One of the minion bullies gets offended when Suping seems to look down on him and demands that they have a match with Beast Instructor rules. Without even pausing to think about it, Suping accepts, but with the condition of adding some stakes to their match. After all, who doesn't like an honest bet? The end? For now.